Hi everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. If you're seeing my face for the first time, my name is Amarachi. I'm your favorite storyteller. Today's story is very emotional. It's deep. It's a story that stays with you long after you hear it. So sit right back, relax, and let me take you on this journey. But before we begin, do hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the bell icon so you get notified whenever I drop a new video. Without further ado, let's dive in. The sun rose gently over the village of Obuoma, casting golden rays across the red soil and rustling banana trees. Children's laughter echoed through the dusty path as women balanced buckets of water on their heads, hips swaying with practiced grace. The scent of wood smoke, groundnut stew, and palm oil filled the air like a lullaby. It was a village that woke with the rhythm of life, and it was here that Mary Nwoke called home. Mary, the youngest daughter of a late palm wine tapper and a retired school cook, was known for her soft-spoken nature and wide, curious eyes. At 19, her beauty was whispered about at evening markets and village square meetings. Not the loud kind of beauty that boasted of lipstick and foreign wigs, but the quiet kind that sat beneath her skin and bloomed in her smile. Her complexion was rich and smooth, her body slender like a banana stem, her movements graceful like the wind. She had dreams, big ones, not just of marriage or motherhood, but of leaving Obuoma and becoming a fashion designer in Enugu or Lagos. She would sit by the mango tree in front of their compound, sketching dress ideas on old exercise books donated by her cousin Ngozi. But life had other plans. Mary had just finished secondary school and was awaiting her WAEC result when her mother fell gravely ill. With no money and no job, Mary took up cleaning at the local church and hawking granuts after school hours. Her hands became rough, her eyes grew tired, but she never complained. One evening, while returning from the market, her life took a turn. He arrived in a black SUV, shiny like glass, the engine purring like a sleeping lion. She didn't recognize the vehicle at first. It was rare to see such cars in Obuoma, but as she stepped off the bush path with her tray of roasted granuts, the window of the car rolled down. "Hello there," came the deep voice from inside. She froze. A man in his early 50s, dark-skinned, thick-necked, and dressed in a white senator with gold chains, smiled at her like he had known her all his life. His name was Chief Damian Okonkwo, a big man, a powerful man, a man who had built houses in Enugu, dealt in oil, and was rumored to have a seat at the table with politicians. "Your face looks familiar. Are you Ngozi's cousin?" he asked, feigning recognition. Mary nodded slowly, her mouth dry. "Yes, sir." He smiled broader. "Ngozi used to talk about you during her internship at my office. Small world." That was the beginning. The next week, he returned. This time, he stepped out of the car and handed her a nylon bag filled with canned drinks, spaghetti, and provisions. "For your mother," he said with a warm grin. "Ngozi told me things have been hard." Mary didn't know what to say. Her mother wept when she saw the content. It had been months since meat entered their pot. From that day, Chief began to visit regularly. Sometimes he came with medicine, sometimes with bags of rice, and sometimes just to check up. Before long, the village began to whisper, "Why is Chief always at Mama Mary's house? She should be careful, oh. These city men have eyes like hawks." But Mary didn't listen. No one had ever shown her family that much kindness. No man had ever spoken to her like she mattered. When Chief began calling her pet names, my golden mango, my sweet Mary, her heart skipped. He never touched her, not then. He was gentle, respectful. Even when he gave her a second-hand smartphone, he said, just in case you ever want to talk. They began texting. Then one day, after church service, he invited her into his car for a private conversation. They talked for hours. She told him about her dreams, her sketches, her hopes. He listened, encouraged, promised, and then it happened. One evening, after he took her to a small guest house outside Obuoma, he kissed her. She was nervous, scared, but the way he spoke, how he called her special, melted her hesitation. It wasn't long before Mary missed her period. When she told Chief, he laughed at first, then his face turned hard. You have to get rid of it. Her heart fell. But you said you loved me. I didn't say I wanted a child or a scandal. She cried, she begged, and when she threatened to go public, he changed tactics. He offered to marry her quietly. I'll just pay your bride price, keep you somewhere small. Nobody needs to know. And so it began. A rushed marriage, a hidden one. He paid the bride price in secret, took her from Obuoma and settled her in a small boys' quarters behind his Enugu mansion. Mary thought her story was still unfolding, that the worst was over. But she was wrong. It had only just begun. The gates of Chief Damian Okonkwo's mansion opened with a slow, intimidating groan of steel. Tall, silver-coated, and guarded by two security men who barely acknowledged her presence. The gates looked more like barriers than entry points. Mary sat in the back of Chief's car, her hands folded over her stomach, already beginning to show signs of life. Chief's child. She gazed wide-eyed at the compound. It was everything she had never known. White pillars holding up a grand building that looked like a hotel. Lush lawns trimmed to perfection. Tiled floors that sparkled like marble under the afternoon sun. Luxury cars, more than 10, lined the driveway like silent guards on duty. But her excitement dimmed when the car didn't stop in front of the main mansion. Instead, it veered towards a small building tucked far behind. Paints chipping, windows dusty, and walls bearing the wear of age. That's where you will stay for now, Chief said, without looking at her. His voice was clipped. Tired, Mary blinked. But I thought I'm still building something for you, he said. This is temporary. It's better than where I met you, isn't it? She nodded slowly, biting her lip. Keep to yourself. Don't ever go near the main house unless I ask you to. And you're not to talk to anyone in the compound unless necessary. My wife doesn't know you're here, and she must never know. With that, he opened the car door and walked away, leaving her alone. Inside the boys' quarters, the air smelled stale. There were cobwebs on the ceiling, and the only furniture was a plastic chair and a worn mattress on the floor. No curtains, no fan, no comfort. Just a bulb dangling weakly from the ceiling like it had given up. Mary sank to the mattress and buried her face in her hands. This was not what he promised. He didn't return for a week, not a call, not a text. The only sign of his involvement was a small envelope of money dropped off by one of the guards, without a word or glance. Mary used the money to buy basic things, food, soap, and a fan. She cleaned the space herself, washed the windows, scrubbed the floors, hung a thin curtain. She waited each day for his knock. Sometimes she stood at the door for hours, clutching her growing stomach, hoping his SUV would drive in. But the car always turned into the front entrance of the mansion, not toward her quarters. Then one morning, as she was fetching water from the tap near the back fence, a woman approached her, tall, graceful. Her head tie was tied with military precision, and her wrapper sparkled with expensive lace. "Who are you?" the woman asked with narrowed eyes. Mary stood frozen. "Are you one of the new mates?" I stay here," she stammered. "With Chief." The woman's gaze turned deadly. "With Chief?" Mary said nothing more. The woman turned and marched back toward the main house, her heels digging into the tiled walkway like she was stabbing the earth with every step. Later that evening, Chief showed up, red-eyed and furious. "What did you tell my wife?" "I didn't tell her anything," Mary cried. "She saw me fetching water and asked who I was. I only said I stayed here." He slapped her hard. The pain shot through her face and echoed in her ears. "I warned you to keep quiet. You've ruined everything." "I didn't say anything," she sobbed. "I swear." "I don't care. If she starts suspecting, I will throw you back into that village. You think I owe you anything? You blackmailed me with that pregnancy. Don't forget that." Mary crumpled to the floor as he stormed out, slamming the door. That night, she bled. Not enough to lose the baby, but enough to keep her up, shivering in fear and shame. She knew then this wasn't a home. It was a cage, and she was trapped. As days turned into weeks, Chief began to show up occasionally, always at night, always angry, always quick. There were no soft words, no kisses, no warmth. Mary no longer felt like a wife. She was something else, something disposable. Still, she clung to hope. She thought if she could prove herself useful, he would love her. "Chief," she said one evening, after he had tossed a bundle of notes on the table, "you once said you'd open a boutique for me. Maybe if I start now, I can help support myself and the baby." He laughed, cold and amused. "I made that promise when we were dating, before you trapped me." "I didn't trap." "Enough," he cut in. "I'll think about it." He never brought it up again. But Mary, determined to make her life worth something, began sketching again. She visited nearby markets to study fabrics. She tried to save from the little money he sent, but survival kept swallowing her dreams. Pregnancy made her tired. Food was never enough, and each visit from Chief felt more like punishment than presence. When the twins came, Adora and Chuka, he didn't visit the hospital. Mary held them alone. She sang to them through her cracked voice, promising they would never suffer. But promises were easier to sing than to keep. 3 children now, and no love, no security, no name. Worse still, Chief had instructed everyone in the compound that they were never to be called his children. "Let them call me Chief," he warned. "They are not my children. They are a mistake I'm managing." That statement stayed with David, her first son, for years. He heard it one day while playing in the grass behind the boys' quarters. It stuck like thorns in his chest. From that moment, he stopped calling him Daddy, stopped believing he ever had one. The boutique sat on a quiet corner of Enugu bustling Okpara Avenue, wedged between a noisy pepper soup joint and a saloon run by a widowed Igbo woman who liked to gossip. It was painted bright yellow with Mimi's Glam's house written in red cursive across the glass front, a name Mary chose from a dream she had one night. It had taken years, years of pleading, of shame, of swallowing insults like communion, and finally, when Mary could no longer feed the children or pay their school fees, she begged Chief on her knees in the compound. "I don't need your love. she had whispered, tears trailing down her cheeks. Just give me a means to stand. He sighed with irritation, not pity. Fine, I'll open that boutique, but don't ask me for a kobo again. It felt like victory. Mary wept with gratitude that night, even as her children watched her from the doorway with empty stomachs and worried eyes. The boutique was small, but clean. The shelves were lined with Ankara fabrics, second-hand gowns from Cotonou, lip gloss, cheap jewelry, and a glass case of perfume oils. Mary threw herself into the business with the hunger of a woman running from hunger itself. Every morning, she left the boys' quarters early with David, helping to carry folded fabrics in a polythene bag. Adora and Chuka were dropped off at their government school on the way. Business began slowly. Some days, she didn't sell a single item. Other days, she made just enough to buy rice for dinner. But she kept showing up every single day. She smiled at customers even when her feet ached. She tied scarves over her worn wigs and powdered her face to hide the stress. And for a time, it seemed things might turn around. She made enough to register David for WAEC. Enough to buy exercise books. Once she even bought eggs. But Chief kept his word in the cruelest way. He stopped sending money entirely. The day after the boutique launched, he told her, "You have your shop now. Feed your children with it." The electricity bill piled up. School fees lapsed. There were no more Christmas clothes, no birthdays, no allowances. Mary began to crumble under the pressure, slowly, quietly. Her voice, once soft with dignity, now shook with desperation when she called out to passing customers. Her hands, once delicate with thread and pencil, now trembled from malnourishment and stress. Her back began to ache, her spirit too. And it wasn't just the hunger or the debts. It was the look in David's eyes. He was growing, 14, then 15. A boy turning into a man with no guidance but silence and pain. He began to question everything. Why did you marry him? Mary would pretend not to hear. Why did you keep having children for someone who treats you like dirt? She would mumble, because I believed he would change, but he didn't. I know, she whispered, I know. David started staying out later. Sometimes he fought in school. Once he came home with a swollen lip. Mary wept that night, not for herself, but for the little boy who had grown up too fast because of choices he never made. I'm sorry, she told him. He didn't respond. Then came the worst year. David passed his secondary school exams, but when Mary asked Chief for money to register him for JAMB, Chief laughed in her face. You think I'll train that boy in the university? He should go and learn a trade. That same month, 2 brand new SUVs were delivered to the house. Birthday gifts for his step-siblings, both turning 19. Mary collapsed in the bathroom that night. A sharp pain cut through her stomach. It wasn't illness, it was grief. Grief for a dream she buried so long ago she forgot it had a name. And the boutique? It crashed. The salon woman next door opened her own fabric line and slashed prices. The pepper soup joint expanded, swallowing half the parking space. Rent doubled. A thief even broke in one night and stole her most expensive goods. Mary closed the boutique permanently. She had nothing left. No shop, no money, no husband, no hope. And then she fell sick. It started as fever, then fatigue, then coughing fits that left her vomiting bile. Still, Chief ignored every message she sent. Guard said, Oga is not around. Texts were never replied to. Calls rang and cut off. Mary's voice grew hoarse. Her weight dropped. Her body shook with every step. David rushed from compound to compound, knocking on doors of relatives. But many had grown tired. We told her not to marry him, they said. She made her bed, so let her lie on it. Alright, story lovers, if this story is pulling at your heart just like it's doing to me, don't forget to give the video a thumbs up. It helps other people discover these stories on my channel. And if you haven't hit the subscribe button, please do well to do so and turn on the bell icon so that you get notified when I drop more videos. Let's get back to the story. Finally, it was Uncle Ejike who showed up. He stormed into Chief's compound with fire in his voice and a walking stick in his hand. "Damian," he roared, "if you let my sister die like a goat, I swear by the gods of Obuoma, your name will rot." Chief, ever calculating, handed over an envelope the next morning. Enough for a hospital deposit. Too late, too little. On the hospital bed, Mary reached for her children's hands. David on one side, Adaora and Chuka on the other. Her lips were pale, her voice a trembling whisper. "My children, forgive me. I never knew this life would be so cruel. I thought we would be happy, but I was wrong. Everything I did hoping to protect you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me." David tried to speak, but the lump in his throat choked him. "Please," she murmured. "Don't hate love. Don't hate women. Don't hate life because of me." And then she closed her eyes and never opened them again. The hospital room smelled of antiseptic and silence. Mary's body lay still, covered in a white sheet. Her hands crossed gently over her chest, as if she were finally at peace. The room, once filled with her moans and coughs, now echoed with a quiet so heavy it seemed to press against the walls. David stood in the corner, fists clenched, eyes hollow. Adaora sat by the body, sobbing quietly. Chuka simply stared ahead, as if his mind had escaped his body and gone somewhere far, far away. The nurse handed David a death certificate and muttered, "We are sorry for your loss." Loss? That word didn't cover it. They had lost more than a mother. They had lost the only person who had ever truly fought for them. The only thread holding their fragile existence together. David walked back to the boys' quarters, the paper crumpled in his fist. They had no phones, no money for a taxi. He borrowed an old Nokia from a food vendor outside the hospital and called one of the compound guards. "Tell Chief our mother is dead." There was a long pause. The voice replied, "Oga is busy." Hours passed. Finally, Chief arrived in his car, windows rolled up, eyes hidden behind black shades. He didn't enter the hospital. He didn't ask to see her body. He simply lowered the window, handed over a black nylon bag and said, "Put on these clothes. There's an ambulance waiting. We are burying her now." David stared at the nylon bag. Inside were 3 black shirts, 3 wrapper skirts, and nothing more. "No coffin?" he asked. No response. "Where are we burying her?" Still nothing. They followed the ambulance in silence. It wasn't until they passed the expressway and began heading toward the city outskirts that David realized something was wrong. "Are we not going to the village?" Chief spoke without turning. "She doesn't have a place in my family's land. The burial is in the public cemetery." David blinked. "Even in death? Yes, Chief said coldly, even in death. The words stung like acid. The cemetery was quiet and bare. No crowd, no music, no prayers, just a shallow grave, a priest who mumbled quickly, and a body lowered into the earth with no nameplate, no headstone, and no goodbye. When it was over, the ambulance driver tossed them back at the gate like trash. They returned to the boys' quarters in silence, but hunger met them at the door like an old enemy. There was no food, no light, just pain, piled like dust on everything they touched. What do we do now? Adora whispered that night. David sat by the window, eyes burning. We survive. How? He didn't answer. Then Chuka said something none of them expected. Why don't we go and beg Daddy's wife? Maybe, just maybe she'll forgive Mommy and help us. The idea hung in the air. David wanted to reject it instantly, to spit on it and call it madness. But hunger has a way of humbling even the proud. And desperation? Desperation can drive a person to knock on the very door that once cursed them. They decided to go on Sunday. Word had it that Chief's wife, Madam Obianuju, always came home from church around noon. They would wait by the garden near the boys' quarters and plead their case. But fate didn't wait for Sunday. On Saturday evening, just before dusk, there was a knock at their door. Soft, hesitant, David opened it cautiously, and there she stood, Madam Obianuju Okonkwo. Tall, regal, dressed in blue and gold lace, her perfume delicate, her face unreadable. The three children stood still, unsure whether to bow or hide. She looked at them, truly looked at them, not with the scorn they expected, but with something strange in her eyes, something human. I know I should have come earlier, she said, stepping inside. I am sorry. I heard about your mother. I should have come. They said nothing. I am a mother too, she added, lowering her voice. I know what it means to lose a woman who carried you. I didn't come to fight. I didn't come to pretend I loved her. The truth is, I didn't. She caused me pain. But she is gone now. And you three are just children. Children who didn't ask for any of this. Adora's lips trembled. Ma, we haven't eaten today. Obianuju blinked fast, as if something pricked her eyes. She nodded slowly. Pack your things, she said. Your rooms are ready. You're moving into the main house. David's jaw dropped. What? She stepped closer. From now on, I will take responsibility for you. I may not be your mother, but I will not let you suffer in that dungeon anymore. It was the first time anyone had called it what it was. A dungeon. Mary's final prison. The children hurriedly gathered their clothes, just 2 polythene bags between them. Obianuju led them through the side path, past the compound guards, past the courtyard fountain and into the mansion through the servants' entrance. The house smelled of citrus and lavender. 3 bedrooms had been freshly cleaned, beds laid, curtains drawn. A tray of food sat on the dining table. Hot jollof rice, fried plantain and cold water. It was like walking into a dream. She handed each of them a small white envelope. For your allowances, she said. Tomorrow, we'll shop for clothes and you need phones. You're part of this family now. I won't have you begging. David wanted to ask why. Why now? Why the change of heart? But something in her face told him not to push. Some wounds are old and healing takes time. That night, they slept on mattresses for the first time in years. Not on floors, not with rats scratching at the doors, but in real beds, in rooms with fans, with food in their stomachs and dignity in their veins. And somewhere in the quiet of that new beginning, David whispered a prayer, not for Chief or even for Obianuju, but for his mother, for Mary. The gates of the University of Nigeria Nsukka stretched wide like the mouth of destiny, swallowing students from across the country, dreamers, rebels, scholars, and even survivors. Among them was David Nwoke, dressed in a neatly ironed white shirt, black jeans, and brand new sneakers, his very first. He clutched a brown envelope containing his admission letter, credentials, and course registration. A deep breath filled his lungs as he stepped onto the campus. This wasn't just school, it was a declaration that he had survived. 2 years had passed since his mother's burial. 2 years since the woman he once called an enemy, Obianuju, welcomed him and his siblings into the main house, and in that time, life had done something it had never done before. It had become kind. David didn't just gain a room in the mansion, he gained something more surprising, a brother. Chief Okonkwo was Chief's first son with Obianuju, a quiet, nerdy boy who preferred sketchbooks and anime to football and flashy parties. While most assumed he would treat David with resentment, Uzochukwu did the opposite. He welcomed him, not out of pity, but out of sincerity. "It's about time we stop living like strangers," he said the night David moved into the mansion. "Let's just be brothers. Not half brothers, just brothers." Now, as fate will have it, the two had not only been admitted to the same university, but also to the same department, architecture, and they were sharing the same hostel room, room B12, block D, Eni Njoku Hall. David had braced himself for awkwardness. He expected tension, maybe silence, maybe long stretches of pretending they didn't notice each other. What he didn't expect was laughter. On the first night, Uzochukwu pulled out a small Bluetooth speaker and played Asas, I Adaba, while setting up their mosquito nets. He offered David chin-chin from home and asked him about his sketching techniques. Within a week, they were walking to lectures together, studying together, laughing like old friends. David had never known that kind of ease with another person before. He had been shaped by rejection, pushed in the heat of hunger and pain. But Uzochukwu treated him like an equal, never as a charity case, never as the boy from the boys' quarters. And for the first time, David let his guard down. But even with the comfort of campus life, the past lingered in his bones. He avoided parties. He flinched whenever girls got too close. He struggled to sit in cafes filled with rich students bragging about their fathers and inheritance. And whenever he saw students take photos with their mothers on visiting day, his throat tightened. One evening, while walking back from studio class, Uzochukwu asked, "Do you ever miss her?" David paused. "All the time," he said. "I used to hate her," Uzochukwu admitted. "My mom cried a lot because of her. We all knew, we just didn't talk about it." David nodded. "I used to hate your mom too. I thought she was wicked, cold." "She kind of was," Uzochukwu chuckled, "until she met you guys." They both laughed. But underneath, it was the unspoken truth that grief changes people, that pain reveals sides of people we never knew existed. In the second semester, David met Kelechi, a girl with dreads, sharp wit, and a voice that made people pause. She was in the fine arts department and once caught David staring at her from across the lawn. "You like what you see?" or you're just studying bone structure for your next model, she teased. He blushed but didn't run. They talked a lot, and though David was scared, terrified of love, of vulnerability, of turning into his father, he began to open up. She taught him that not every woman would leave him broken, that not every relationship ended in ruins. One night, while sitting beneath the giant mango tree outside their hostel, Kelechi asked, "Why are you always so cautious?" David looked at the stars, then whispered, "Because I've seen what love did to my mother." She took his hand. "And maybe it's time you let love do something different to you." By his 20th birthday, David had grown not just in age but in spirit. He was doing well in school. He was emotionally healing. And on that special day, something happened that would forever mark a full circle moment in his life. Chief bought him a car, a brand new Toyota Corolla, silver sleek and ribbon wrapped. The same man who once said, "Let him learn a trade," now stood in front of the mansion, car keys in hand, saying, "Congratulations, son." David accepted the gift, but not the affection. He nodded politely, thanked him, and walked away without a smile. Because forgiveness was one thing, but forgetting? That would take a lifetime. It began with silence. Chief Damian Okonkwo was a man who loved noise. Noise of deals, noise of status, noise of people calling him chief in fake reverence. His phones never stopped ringing. His gates never stopped opening. His voice was always booming across the compound like a declaration of power. But suddenly, the noise died. First, he stopped attending business meetings. Then, he skipped a high-profile gala in Abuja where he was to receive an award of honor. Rumors swirled that he was sick, but no one could confirm anything, not even his driver. David noticed it first when he returned home for semester break. The compound was unusually quiet. The staff walked more slowly. The flowers were overgrown. The fountain had stopped running. "Where is he?" David asked Obianuju during lunch. "In his room. He hasn't been out much." "Is he sick?" She hesitated, but not sure yet. David didn't ask more. He had learned long ago not to push when the house felt heavy. That evening, as he passed the corridor leading to Chief's wing, he heard something that stunned him. Chief was praying, alone, loudly, desperately. "I know I haven't lived right. I know I pushed away the ones I should have loved." David stood frozen, the voice behind the closed door cracking in ways he had never heard. "If you can give me time, I want to fix it, especially with them." Them? David stepped back quietly and returned to his room, his mind racing. The next morning, Chief requested to see him. In the private lounge, Chief sat in a simple wrapper and t-shirt. No chains, no rings, no grandeur. His face was thinner, cheeks slightly sunken, eyes heavy with something David couldn't place. "Sit down, David." David sat slowly. "I'm not dying," Chief began, "but I've been diagnosed with something. Something that makes a man think about what he'll leave behind." David said nothing. Chief exhaled. "I've made many mistakes, but none more painful than how I treated your mother and all of you." David looked down, jaw tight. "I was a coward," Chief continued. "I thought having power meant protecting image. I let shame dictate how I treated you. But now, I want to make things right." David looked up slowly. Chief pulled out a folder and placed it on the table. "My will." David's heart skipped. "I've updated everything," Chief said. "You, Adora, and Chuka. You are now legally my children. Your full names have been changed to Okonkwo in the family register. I've also allocated properties to each of you. No one will contest it, not even Obianuju. She gave her blessing. David blinked in disbelief. I'm not doing this because I'm dying, Chief added. I'm doing it because if I die without doing it, I'll never rest. A long silence passed. David finally spoke. Why now? Chief looked away, his voice breaking. Because she died thinking she failed. And I want the world to know it was me who failed her. That night, David walked through the compound alone. He stared at the sky and whispered into the wind. Mama. He said it. He finally said it. 2 weeks later, the family meeting was called. Obianuju sat beside Chief, her face calm but unreadable. The children, all of them, sat in a circle. I called you here, Chief began, because for too long this house has lived with secrets and division. I have wronged many of you, and I am asking for your forgiveness, especially from my children, all my children. There were no dramatic gasps, just silence. And then Chuka stood up and walked over to Chief. He hugged him, followed by Adaora, and slowly with trembling hands, David did the same. Obianuju smiled, not the smile of triumph, but the smile of a woman who had let go of bitterness and chosen something stronger, compassion. And so, the man who once banished Mary to the shadows finally brought her children into the light, not out of guilt alone, but out of a desire to heal. The wounds would never vanish completely, but for the first time, they were allowed to breathe. Thank you for watching. Please do well to subscribe to the channel and turn on the bell icon so you get notified when I'll drop another story. Also, I'd like to know in the comments what part of Mary's journey resonates with you. I'll be waiting to answer each and every one of you. Until I come your way again, I remain Amarachi, your favorite storyteller. See you in my next video.